from the Ethics of the Fathers, which goes on to say that one moment of bliss in the world to come is worth more than all the pleasures that you can possibly have in this world. But one moment, I don't want that feedback. But one moment. The one moment of tshuva and good deeds in this world is worth more than all of the world to come as well. How can that be? What does that really mean? Well, what is tshuva? Tshuva, everybody knows what tshuva means? No, nobody knows what tshuva means. You know what tshuva means? Tshuva, it's a very simple thing. Tshuva means when you're in the same place that you did a transgression with the same people, and all the same things are available to you, all the same pleasures that you wanted to have at that time, and you don't do it. You don't do it. That means you did tshuva. And if the next time you still don't do it, and you still don't do it, and you still don't do it, and you still don't do it, then you did tshuva. But after you don't do it 5 times, and then one time you sneak, think nobody's looking, and you do it again, that means you didn't do tshuva yet. You know, an example from my father, Oliver Sholem, when he was in his mid-40s, he had a huge heart attack. And he recovered. Baruch Hashem, I was a little boy. I remember how I felt when they brought him home. In those days, it was possible that they would bring you home, not put you in the hospital. They brought him home. They made a tent over the bed. He had an oxygen tent over his bed. And I stood there. I was very frightened. And he got better. And he went to the doctor, and the doctor said, you have to cut back. Can't smoke so much. He smoked a couple of packs of cigarette every day. So you have to smoke less. He took his cigarettes. He said, here, doctor, if you want, you can finish this pack of cigarettes. He never smoked another pack, never smoked another cigarette. That's tshuva. When you're doing something wrong and you make a strong decision, I'm never going to do this again, and you never do it again, then that's called tshuva. So that means that we have 2 contradictory ideas here. One idea is the traditional idea that the goal of all our good deeds and Torah learning in this world is in order to merit, to be admitted to the world to come. Because the pleasure of the world to come is beyond anything that this world has to offer. On the other hand, we have a different thought that contradicts and says, no, that there's something in this world that's even greater than the world to come. What is that? That's tshuva and good deeds. Ordinary good deeds, no. Tshuva and good deeds, because when a person does tshuva, afterwards, the whole taste of the good deeds is different. A person could make a mistake, and there are people who did that. They thought, if it's so great to do tshuva, I don't have what to do tshuva on. I'm going to do some bad things, and then I'll do tshuva. Doesn't work. Why not? Why doesn't it work? Chaya, are you with me? Why doesn't it work? If you say, I'm going to do something wrong, I'm going to break Shabbos, so that then I can do tshuva, because tshuva is greater.
Well, if your purpose is
than otherwise.
Then that's not. You're doing it on purpose, then that's nothing. If you do it by mistake, that's.
If you do it by mistake, then you can do tshuva on it. But if you do it on purpose, it's not going to work. Why?
It's a transgression.
Why?
Because you're not allowed to break Shabbos in the first place, and you're doing it on purpose. It's a teshuva. It's not gonna do anything.
That's right, 100%. I'm just asking why. Anybody know why? Can anybody figure this one out? Why the expression for it in Hebrew is echta v'ashuv. I'm going to do a sin. Echta, I'm going to do a sin. V'ashuv, and I'm going to do tshuva.
Because that should be
The Talmud says, "Ein maspikin lo," they don't give him an opportunity in heaven. From heaven, they make sure he never gets a chance to do tshuva.
You do it on purpose, you don't intend to do tshuva?
Yeah, if you do it on purpose, they make sure you don't. They make sure that you won't do tshuva. They make sure it doesn't work. You're right, Chaya, it doesn't work. Why not? Because in heaven, they don't let you do tshuva.
Ah,
You've tied yourself into, and the reason is, this is how it works psychologically, because tshuva became part of your transgression. What motivated you to do the transgression was the idea that you could do tshuva on it. So doing tshuva is part of the sin. So how can you, so therefore doing tshuva doesn't help you.
I see.
It's catch-22. But the Talmud concludes, nobody, in the end, nobody will be pushed off. If a person really wants to do tshuva, he could succeed, but it'll be hard. It will be hard for him because they won't be helping him from heaven. When you think he'll want to do tshuva, you know, it's like we read in the story of Yosef. Yosef told the butler in prison what's going to happen to him, how in 3 days' time he's going to be restored to his position, and he's going to serve wine to Pharaoh. And when that happened, said Yosef, remember me, because I was kidnapped. I didn't do anything wrong. I don't believe, there's no reason why I should have to be here in prison. And the butler said, for sure, I'll remember you. You're a good guy, Yosef. We like you. And he goes to Pharaoh, and he wants to tell him about this Jewish kid in prison that helped him, and he forgets. Ooh, how did I forget? He forgot. Tomorrow I got to remember. So he tried to tie a string around his hand to remind himself to speak to Pharaoh about this Jewish kid in prison that helped him out so much. And what happens? The string falls off. So another day goes by. And so it goes on day after day after day. Everything he does in order to try and remember doesn't work, and he forgets. For 2 years, he's trying to remember to tell Pharaoh about this Jewish kid in prison. And for 2 years, he's forgetting. Until finally, one day, Pharaoh has dreams. Oh, you having dreams? That reminds me. Yeah, sure. I meant to tell you this now for 2 years, that there's a kid in prison that knows how to explain dreams. And so Yosef comes out of prison, and the next day, he's a ruler of the whole of Egypt. So that's what it means. In heaven, they don't let you do tshuva. You want to do tshuva, you go to do tshuva. And from heaven, they make sure that you don't do it. Like, let's say a person has something minor, okay? Talks in shul. Person talks in the middle of davening. And his teacher tells him what this is a very bad thing. It's a bad character trait. You shouldn't do it. He says, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm going to avoid doing this. Or he decides along these lines, from the time that he puts on his tefillin, and he says a blessing on the tefillin, he's not going to talk until he takes them off. Not going to talk, only just going to talk to Hashem. Very good decision. It's an excellent decision. What happens? He goes to shul, and an old friend comes over. He hasn't seen him in 6 months, and he comes over. Chaim Yankel, how are you? I'm so happy to see you. What's doing? How's the family? He talks. He answers him. And that's how it goes. That from heaven, they make sure that you don't. So this is what we're learning, that 1 hour of tshuva and good deeds in this world is worth more than the whole of the world to come. Now, we just defined tshuva means that you're doing something wrong and you make a strong decision and you're never going to do it again, never going to do it again. Then you're called a Baal tshuva. Why is this greater than the whole of the world to come? So the Alter Rebbe says, what is the world to come? That's why you came to this class. You want to find out these things. What is the world to come? And why is tshuva greater? So what is the world to come? Is the world to come being together with Hashem? What is it? What is this that you talk about? There's this world, and then there's the world to come. Sometimes it's called by the name the Garden of Eden, Gan Eden. What is it? So let's take the idea of a room, nighttime, there's a room with a strong light on. And you're not in that room, you're outside the room, but you can see that there's a light on in the room. You're outside, but some of that light is radiating into the hallway. So you see that there's light in the room, but you don't see the light. I'll give you another example. You ever go to the theater, or you're in production in school, and the star of the play, the spotlight is on her, and then there's a spillover because of the angle of the light. There's a spotlight on her, and then there's less light around. It's like it spills over. Or in the first example, where we have the light in the room and you're not in the room, but there's a little bit of light that you benefit from outside of the room. Or you're in a room and it's a sunny day, so you pull the blinds. So the sun doesn't come into the room, but light comes into the room. Through the blinds, some light is coming into the room, quite enough. You don't even need the lights on. Okay, so we have light and we have a radiation, a radiance, a glow from the light. So if Hashem is light, let's say Hashem is compared to light, the radiance of Hashem is like a glow from the light of Hashem. It's a step removed. And if the light is very, very strong in the first place, you can have a glow and you can have a radiance from the glow. And you can have a luminosity from the radiance, from the glow of the light source. You have light source, and you have light, and you have radiance from the light, and the luminosity from the light, and the glow of the luminosity from the light, step by step by step by step. So in the world, what is the world to come? The Alter Rebbe says quite clearly here on page 88, because the souls of the world to come, what do they get? What is the reward of a person dedicating his life to good deeds and learning Torah? Is that he merits to be admitted to the world to come, where he is permitted to perceive the radiance of the divine presence. Now, he doesn't see the divine presence. He doesn't see God. He sees a shine, if you will, or a radiance, not of God either, but of the presence of God. You have God, and then you have his presence, what we call some in English, charisma, sort of a radiance a person gives out. Some people, they come into the room lights up. There's just a certain presence that they have, you've seen this, especially, celebrities, theater people, there's a presence that they have about them. So you don't have, in the world to come, it's not God. You have the presence, the divine presence, that's called Shechina. Shechina is where Hashem could be found, where the light that Hashem gives off is called the Shechina. The Holy Temple is a dwelling place for the Shechina. The Jewish people are called the Shechina because wherever the Jewish people go, the world sees God. When you go in the subway, Jewish people don't see you. They see a Jew. They see a Jewish person who believes in God. So the Jewish people, they bring God into the world, wherever they go. because Jewish people are good people, and the goodness radiates. What's a radiation? It's something, a kind of light that you give off. It's not a visible light, but it's somewhere in the infrared, the spiritual infrared spectrum, if you will, that you give off. A good person gives off a good feel. A good person comes into the room, everybody feels good. A nasty person comes into the room, everybody feels terrible. You just feel a cruel, selfish, nasty person. You don't want to be there. People come to the Rebbe is so good, people just lose themselves before the Rebbe. Totally unprepared to confront such goodness. Because the Shekhinah, the Rebbe is so involved with Torah and mitzvahs every single second that the Shekhinah, the presence of God, is with him wherever he gives, whatever he does. And that's why the Rebbe, all the pictures of the Rebbe look so beautiful. We have a beautiful Rebbe because he's so involved with that which is the essence of beauty. That's God. You with me? So the Shekhinah is the place where the presence of God is felt and perceived. And we build a temple for God, a holy tabernacle, or the Beis Hamikdash, the Western Wall. It says the Shekhinah never left the Western Wall. So what is it? What is this? The Shekhinah, the world to come. This is the radiance of the presence of the Almighty. So it's like 3 steps down. But, light is light. You're not in the room where the light is shining. You're outside the room, but you see the light. You still see that there's light. It's still light, but it's diminished. It's less intense. So the Shekhinah is what is perceived in the world to come. The soul takes great delight because there's nothing like it in this physical world. So it's much greater than the physical world. And we living in physical bodies in the physical world don't perceive this with our physical eyes, but the soul does. And in the world to come, when the soul is separated from the body, then the soul can perceive the radiance of God that the soul has been involved with in doing mitzvahs. Some mitzvahs, sometimes you actually perceive the light of the mitzvah, like tonight, when you light Shabbos candle, you're going to see the light of the candle. That's why it's so beautiful. Because you see the light of Hashem in a physical form. Hanukkah candles also. You see the light of Hashem. Now, each mitzvah is connected to every other mitzvah. So this teaches us an important lesson. That every mitzvah you do creates light. Just like a Shabbos candle. Only you don't see it. When you go out the door, you see the mezuzah, you kiss the mezuzah. It reminds you of the unity of God. Hear, O Israel, Hashem is our God, Hashem is one. That's what's written on the mezuzah, and you kiss it, and you think about the unity of God. He is our God when you go out and when you come back. Well, every mitzvah does this. Every mitzvah thinks about it, but you don't see the mezuzah on the door, except when you have the mitzvah of a mezuzah. But when you light a Shabbos candle, it also tells you about the unity of God. And there's only one God, and we don't believe in idols. Because every mitzvah teaches about every other mitzvah. And some mitzvahs that are about light, we actually see the light. Okay. And there are levels of light. There's light the way it is connected to the source of light. And then there's the light the way it spreads. And then there's the light, the way its radiance is perceived in the next room over. So the soul in the world to come is enabled to perceive the light in all the good things that they did in this when they were alive here in this world. And it's a great pleasure and a privilege. And you've earned that privilege because you did all these wonderful things. Because they are godly things. And you perceive the radiance of the godliness of everything you did. So the Alter Rebbe goes on to say here, page 88, this is a radiance, he says in the English, a remote gleam. There you go. A remote gleam of the divine light. In the world to come, it says, the top of page 88, the neshama enjoys the radiance of the divine presence. This is a pleasure that's perceived by the intellect. It involves understanding godliness. Well, here, that's great to perceive and understand the godliness that you've been involved with in learning Torah and coming to the Machon Layadus and doing all kinds of mitzvahs, being hospitable, taking care of other girls, teaching other girls, reaching out, meeting people, giving them Shabbos candles, keeping Shabbos, learning how to keep Shabbos, helping others to keep Shabbos, to teach them how to keep Shabbos, being nice to your parents, calling up and saying, hi, Mom, hi, Dad, have a good Shabbos. I love being in the Machon. Send my younger sister, it's great here. You know, these are all good things. And see the goodness in them and the holiness in it. And it's great. No created being, even angels on the highest levels, can comprehend any more than a glimmer of a remote gleam of the divine light. There's people, they want more. We're continuing down the page, but if you want the essence of what Hashem, glory of what Hashem is, this is a general many times. No thought can grasp the essence of what God is because it's infinite. So how can your mind ever grasp it? What you get in the world to come is a grasp, an understanding, an apprehension of what godliness is. But what godliness really is, you can never grasp it. It's too big, it's too great, it's too bright. Just take a sip. Say the bracha downstairs. As for the essence and glory to be seen, God in his essence and his glory, no thought can possibly grasp the infiniteness of Hashem. Except, here's the catch, except when Hashem enclothes himself, his glory and his essence in the Torah, in the 613 mitzvahs of the Torah, Hashem writes himself into the Torah, and he writes himself like a good author, writes himself into a book, a good composer writes himself into his symphony, a good painter paints his soul into the painting, and that's the difference between a great painter and a failure, an imposter, a faker. Hashem is the greatest of everything. He puts himself into the Torah, into the stories of the Torah, into the wisdom of the Torah, into the laws of the Torah, into the wisdom of the Torah, into the mystical side of the Torah we found. And there we find the essence of God. In the letters of the Torah and in the explanations of these letters given to us by the sages, which are also holy, the oral Torah is also holy. And so when we learn the oral Torah and we follow the teachings that are conveyed to us in the oral Torah, then the soul can grasp and clothe itself in godliness, because Hashem has contracted his essence, his infiniteness, and squeezed it into every single letter of the Torah and of the God essence. Like if you have, we used olive oil. If you have olive oil in it, and you take 3 ounces of this olive oil and you put it into a cup, which oil is more olive oil? What's in the container or what's in? It's the same olive oil. And all I have is 2 drops of olive oil, not even 3 ounces, just 2 drops, which is more olive oil than anything else. They're all the same. They're all olive oil. They are all the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai, the building of the Mishkan, going through the wilderness, coming to Eretz Yisrael, the laws, the holidays, the wisdom. It's all the greatness of Hashem. That's like the container. That's like the laws of a particular mitzvah. A few drops. So that particular law of that particular idea suggested by the mitzvah. But it's all the same oil. It's all the same essence. That's where it is, because, and this is what we learned on the previous page of this chapter from the Zohar, who wrote, Rabbi to be found. And that's how the page concludes. In Aramaic, that's what it means. The Torah, only one, blessed be he, Kul Echad are one thing. How is it possible? If so, to take some, be sure you come get back to the dorm. I'll understand. And he's wearing a garment. You don't say, well, the garment is embracing me. No, the king is embracing you. The king is in the garment. So garments matter. Garments there are. That you're supposed to do. I give charity. I can give money to charity. I put on tefillin. I keep Shabbos. I have all these garments, but I don't feel anything. Doesn't matter that you don't feel. Feeling is a privilege. The garments contain the king. The will of God is in the garments. Of God in the garments, in these letters, and in these laws, and in these teachings. And when you do them, and when you learn them, like we said yesterday, is it the dancer or the dance or the composer of the dance You can't tell the dancer from the dance. And speaking about a king embracing somebody, so that's talking about the Torah, that his right hand, when he gives me the Torah. And the right hand refers to his love, his kindness, which comes down to us like water, because Torah is compared to water. Hagun Allah. We'll come back to chapter 4. We'll learn you again, but for now, we're going to move on next week to chapter 5. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Shabbos is a completion of Hey Teves. Be a great inspiration. Batya? Yes. Monitor for attendance.
What?
You're the monitor for attendance. She'll take the attendance for Friday.
Okay.
Don't forget Rachel O'Connor.
Yes.
And Shira just came in.